As a next level leader, I believe you can become better than you ever thought you could be. The key is to figure out what your blind spots are and get them out of your way. Let's get started. This is The Blind Spot. In today's episode of The Blind Spot with Deb Seymour, I share a fantastic conversation with my very good friend, Amber Deimler. Amber is the VP of Sales at a company in New Jersey. She's had quite a career. She is very insightful and talks a lot about her growth and how she's been able to use all of these opportunities. And I love that we look at it this way, all of these opportunities to help her build her career. And it's a growth mindset. She's going to talk a lot about losses versus lessons, silver linings, putting your ego aside to learn, figuring out what your challenges are, and looking at the expansive opportunity and asking for help. She's an inspiration, and I know that you're going to learn a lot from what she shares. The biggest takeaway for me that really shows what a blind spot could be for others is that she knows not to put herself in a box. Sometimes create these boundaries that make us feel safe. And she talks a lot around where everything that she has done, she had no boundaries. And she just really pushed through things to see how much she could grow. I know you're going to love the conversation. So enjoy and go be great. Welcome, everyone, to the Blind Spot podcast with Deb Seymour. I am with my very good friend, Amber Deimler, who is the VP of Sales for Demountable Concepts, which is located in Glassboro, New Jersey. And Amber and I go way back. And, you know, I was leading a training class and had her be part of that. And we could talk a little bit about those first days, but your career and where it is today, you've been like climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing, and it's been awesome. So Amber, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, give your story, give the listener a little behind the scenes about who you are, and then let's dig in.
Yeah, sure. Sounds great. Well, first, glad to be here. And yes, we do go way back. So I graduated University of Delaware with a degree in business administration. So I did about 10 years of outside sales, independent outside sales, just me working for a medical device company, and then came across Enterprise and got the opportunity to work with you there. And from there, I kind of learned a lot about myself and what I was passionate about, which was leading people and helping other people grow their individual sales careers, which kind of a perfect storm. Got the opportunity to meet Rustin Casway, the president of Demountable Concepts. And we came across each other when I was working for Enterprise. He was not yet looking for a VP of sales, but knew there was a future for it. And it was almost just two people in the room at the right time. And it grew into my opportunity to be the VP of sales for that company now. So it's been a wild ride. And it's been a lot of things coming into place at just a great time for me, I think, that have helped facilitate where I am in my career today. So kind of the short version.
Yeah. Well, I can distinctly remember you from new hire class and, your 10 years experience prior to starting at Enterprise clearly was like the bright spot when it came to how well you communicated. And I'm like, there's something more that's going on with this chick, that she has like something special that I know is going to help her in her career. We need to like get her in the right direction. And I know that you landed in a big sales job for Enterprise. And, I think that was kind of the sweet spot, and it just went from there. So can you talk a little bit about, opportunity? Because, even from what you said with meeting Rustin and you just had a conversation with him and decided to go for it. It seems like you have taken advantage of these little things that some people might hesitate and think too deeply about, and you actually move really quickly on things. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's funny that you bring that up, because I was thinking a lot about that. And I think a lot of that relates to just not really squandering any opportunity that you have to have a good conversation with someone, right? So you're in a room with people, just maximizing your opportunity to learn about those people, what it is that they do, not from the perspective of, oh, what can they do for me, but just genuinely being interested in people and what's happening around you. I'd say my career at Enterprise is probably a really good model for that because I bounced all around when I was there. I started in rental. From rental, I had a great opportunity to be an assistant manager of a really large location, which I learned a ton in Westchester, being an assistant manager. But then the opportunity came up in the truck division, and I seized that opportunity to take a position that was not a really widely understood position as a truck rental sales executive. Every group didn't necessarily have it, but I saw it as this awesome opportunity to learn something new, meet some new people, learn things about trucks, which I didn't know a whole lot about trucks at the time. And then from there, I had the opportunity in my interactions with business rental and the fleet division to kind of take advantage of those relationships, and had an opportunity in our fleet division, which is just kind of a crazy path. I also, worked at the airport and the train station, kind of in the middle of all of that. And I think you hit the nail on the head of just seizing opportunities and really being open to learning new things. And I think a part of that is being comfortable with the fact that it's uncomfortable when you're growing and you're learning things, and understanding that you're going to be a little bit uncomfortable and you might be off your axis and it might not be really what you feel like you should be doing day to day. But in those spaces is where I think as an individual, I've grown the most and learned the most from other people around me. And it's just about being open to that, I think, and being open to those opportunities.
Yeah, I would call that a little bit of courage, and also probably trusting yourself. Some people want to have the affirmation from somebody to say, yeah, I think you're going to be great at this. Go do it. They might have said that, but you are still like, let me try this. It's different. I'm okay with it. It's exciting. Who knows what's going to happen? And, you just launch. So where does that come from? Like, that's something that you have that a lot of people don't. So where's that come from?
I think it comes from a couple of places. So it's being aware of who you are as a person and being comfortable with who you are as a person, and understanding that you're not always going to do things 100% perfectly as you're working through these new opportunities that you take on, and just really looking at the silver lining of the lessons that you learn. Maybe when you don't do something so well, I tend to look at things as the glass is half full. I think that gives me a perspective that allows me to have courage, because I know that it's not going to be a loss. It might be a lesson if I don't do something 100% correctly, but viewing it more in a positive light of, okay, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I've made it through 100% of bad days. Like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I jump into this opportunity? I'm most likely going to learn a heck of a lot from it and grow a lot from it. So I think that's part of it, is just being self-aware that it's going to be a lesson at the very worst, but you might just have this opportunity to do something great or find something great out about yourself. And I think it comes from knowing that no matter what it is that I'm going to do, I'm going to put 110% effort into it. I think some people view that as like exactly what you said. Well, I'm going to put 100% effort in. I'm going to put the sweat equity in because I need the affirmation from other people recognizing me doing it. I think for me, it's about proving that I can do it. So that sweat equity and pushing the boundaries is about, hey, now I know where my limits are. And that might come from my athlete background, but when I work hard or I work at 110%, I think it's more of a selfish thing. It's like, I want to see how hard I can actually work so that I really know how expansive this is and what my track and my path might be. So I think that's part of it too. It's just knowing you're going to put 110% into whatever job is thrown at you, and you're going to learn a lot from it and have a good time doing it. I think that's a big piece of it.
That's cool. And it's almost like you're playing the game and you're playing to win, and you're looking at anything coming at you as a fun challenge. Even though it's a challenge, you're okay with it. You're going to learn from it. That type of growth mindset, that there's no loss. It's a lesson. I like how you describe that. What was one of the biggest lessons that you had that some people might call it a loss?
I probably would look at my opportunity when I worked for the fleet division for Enterprise. That's an extremely challenging position. And I think even if you're the best of the best salesperson, it's a challenging position. It's a little bit isolating. You're kind of on your own path. You're making a lot of cold calls. There's a lot of rejection in that. I think for me, the biggest lesson that I learned was that I like individual sales. I don't love being as isolated as that position required, let's say, to be really great at it. But I would say that I definitely view it more as an opportunity to learn that about myself and then guide the people that I'm coaching now who might feel a little bit isolated about how they can kind of change their mindset on that, or maybe a better area for them to use their skills. But that was an interesting lesson for me because I didn't know it going into it. I was just thinking, well, I'm going to build these relationships with people. It's going to be this like team atmosphere, just like any other position I had at Enterprise. And it was just a little bit different, not in a negative way, just in a different way. So for me, it taught me a heck of a lot about myself and just that I really value relationships with my coworkers, with the people that I'm coaching, with my customers, with my prospects. Those relationships are so integral to who I am as a human being. And kind of that isolating piece of it isn't so much something that appeals to me, even though there is an element of that in almost any sale that you have. That in particular was just a little bit more isolating of a position. So I think what it did for me was it allowed me to look at that aspect of being a salesperson and figure out a way to coach people through that and say, hey, listen, this might not fit necessarily your personality, but let's do this to get to this result and to get to this place, and kind of just view it a little bit differently when I coach people or when I'm in this leadership role now, where it does require you to ask people to do some things that are uncomfortable for them, So I think I learned a heck of a lot about myself through that position, probably the most out of any job that I've had really in my life.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah, I know. And, I think both of us could look backwards, and there's not just that job or that position from 20 years ago got me here. No, there were definitely some guideposts that I could look backwards on and say, oh, well, that led to that thing, that led to this thing, that led to that experience, that led to this experience. And you're just like building and building with layers of experience, so that now that you are in this role, you just have a richer view on how your team can be successful. You're helping them get to the end game quicker. And you're also helping to coach them through these things that you've experienced yourself, because you had that open mindset, that growth mindset, and you looked at that experience as like, okay, something I learned, versus some people might look at it and say, I never want to do that again. And they just kind of dismiss it and put it out of their head, versus you kind of file it away as it was another learning opportunity for me. So that's cool,
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah.
Absolutely cool. And some of my best friends came from the enterprise fleet division. So I always look at things of like, I wouldn't have all of those friends if I didn't take that opportunity. And I would have learned all the things that I did about the fundamentals of cold calling people and how important it is and how critical it is to really be able to do it effectively and repetitively and effectively. That's the key, is being able to just keep that high level of performance. So yeah, I think that's the way you have to look at really everything in life, is what's the opportunity here? And okay, maybe it didn't go as planned, but what did I learn from it? And what would I do differently? And maybe what can I help other people that are going through the same thing, help them with, so that they avoid maybe a pitfall that I fell into.
Yeah, that way of thinking, I think, is a blind spot for a lot of people. And, they have tunnel vision and they're just experiencing things, but they're just like plowing through life and not really utilizing those experiences to their advantage. So, nice job. And, even leaning towards, earlier, you mentioned that you enjoy learning about others, the conversations that you get to have with people, and how you go into these conversations. You are a great listener and you're curious. And how did that get developed? You could talk to anybody about anything. I don't want to say you have the gift of gab. It's just kind of cheesy, but I think you have a richness around how you have a conversation with people, even including myself. And it's just very engaging. And as someone that speaks with you, I do feel heard. So how did you develop that? That's a great skill set.
I have to credit my dad with that. So growing up, my dad was an outside salesperson for about 20 years. He was in printing sales. And my dad has always been able to connect with anyone. Like in the room, you lose him the fastest because he goes to find somebody that he's met, and then he brings them over and they're like friends and they connect and they hang out after. Like my dad has always been the type of person that has been able to connect with people. And it's exactly what you said. He was always a really good listener. I remember my dad just always listening. And what he did really well was he found the thing that he found the thing that you have in common with the other person very quickly. He was able to identify it quickly because he would listen and pull some things out and find something to really relate to that person on a level, or ask a person questions about something that really mattered to them and get them talking about that. And it really opens someone up. So I had this amazing benefit of watching my dad do it my whole life, really, in social settings and work settings. And I think it just sort of rubbed off on me. And it was something that I always wanted to be, because I saw how he made other people feel heard, seen, appreciated. And it didn't matter, where they came from, what their background was. He treated everybody, the exact same way in those situations. So I have to credit my dad with that, because he was just a really great example. And I think I saw how he made people feel. And, he still is the guy that was like, oh, I love your dad. He's so great, because they remember a positive interaction that they had with him. So my goal when I enter a room is I want to be a light. I want to be a positive interaction for somebody in that day. We have enough negative things going on, in the world and in our own lives. It's like, if you can give somebody a break from that and just find a great thing that they're passionate about for them to talk about, you learn about them. Maybe you learn something about yourself, and you have this connection that you're able to build on. That's always been a goal for me when I've been in a room. I want to be a lightness in a room. You never want to be the person that enters the room. People are like, oh man, that person's in the room again. But I definitely have to credit my dad. He was a great, great example of that. And to see someone in action, it's the best way to learn.
I love that. There's definitely some technical learnings in that where, you mentioned find something in common. What's that thread that you can continue to talk about because it's interesting to them, being focused on them, but your mindset is the other half of it. So I love it that you're considering how you want to show up, and that you are there to just make someone else's day and help them have a good time. Networking events can be sometimes a drag. And, if you are walking in with this light, you're like the exciting thing, the shiny thing that's in the room, that's going to be memorable and people are going to want to talk to you. So that's awesome. Nice job.
Thank you. I'll tell you what, I always appreciate people that are a light and are positive. So I've always kind of learned from other people too that you interact with. There's always those people you remember from like a networking event or trade show that you're like, that person was so fun to talk to, and I learned so much, and we have this thing in common that we're going to follow up on. Those are always the best interactions that you have.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about where you are right now and what the future looks like. It's an exciting time at your company. Your role is VP of Sales. And what's going on and what are you looking forward to?
Yeah, well, first, you have a front row seat to this whole thing, which is really exciting, right? It's a really exciting time in transportation, logistics in general, and we've definitely benefited from just a lot of hard work. Our company's been in business for 32 years with 3 kind of separate divisions that operate almost independently. It's a challenge every day because you're taking your hat on and off. My salespeople are spread through those 3 divisions. And I think the thing that I'm the most passionate about is just helping my sales team achieve the goals that they've set for themselves and helping them continue to move the bar. And we've been able to do that. I've been there now 4 years. And we were just talking about this the other day, that last year was the best year from a revenue standpoint in company history. And we're hoping to beat that again this year. And for me, it's less about that number, and it's more about the excitement from my teammates and my sales team and the production team and the engineers and everyone involved in this massive team effort to see us all kind of rowing in the same direction, and our sales team being such a huge piece of that because they're the front line. And there's a huge responsibility related to that. So to see the reward for the responsibility for me is what I'm the most passionate about. And I think seeing these guys set these goals and just smash them and then go after the next goal and smash it, it's just really rewarding. And being able to coach them and help them through situations that I've already been through or something that we learned together, that's a really, really rewarding thing. And because there's 3 divisions, those targets are always moving. It's maybe a different situation. It's a different customer. It's a different prospect, new challenge. That's what I think right in this current moment I'm the most passionate about, but always thinking strategically, working not always in the business, but on the business, knowing that we have a building coming, a new building that will allow 2 of our divisions to kind of spread their wings a little bit, which I'm very excited about. And me moving into a more leadership executive role. I became a part company owner at the tail end of last year, which was a major goal for me. So being able to do that was fantastic. And now taking an increased responsibility and learning from Rustin, who's been the president, since the inception of the business, and really looking into, potentially moving into his role as we kind of grow and he moves on to the next phase of his career. I'm very, very passionate about that because I think there's a different skill set associated with being a president of a company versus just leading your own team. So trying to be expansive about that and be more involved in our engineering and our production, and taking a leadership role in big decisions made at the company. So that's kind of the future and the next evolution. And doing executive coaching myself to get myself there, because you can't do it by yourself. And I've learned a lot about asking for help. And I think that's the key to me getting to this next goal for myself is asking for help in the areas that I'm a little bit underdeveloped or see some opportunity for myself. So it's kind of where we are and where we're going.
That's great. And I was going to ask, where's the challenge? And you answered it in that ending part of your answer with knowing when to ask for help, reaching out, being resourceful. I think you also are bringing, again, your growth mindset to the opportunity and looking at it from that lens where there's so much to learn, yet you're excited to learn. And it's not a bad thing if you don't know everything. It's actually kind of exciting to have this like brand new perspective. And you're, just part of it and you're growing it. So congrats again. This is great.
Thank you. Yeah. And I also like the opportunity to not be the smartest person in the room. I know people talk about that a lot, but I think we have this awesome culture at our company where we want to hire the smartest people and the people that maybe know a lot more about any of us in certain areas of practice. And we want to surround ourselves and learn from those people. And I think that's a big piece of growing yourself and growing a company, is putting your ego aside and understanding exactly what you said. Like, this is a no ego situation. I don't know everything about welding or manufacturing or engineering, but I want to sit in these rooms with the guys that do, and the really smart guys. And I want us to all work as a team to get to where we want to get to from a goal perspective, and empowering those people to make decisions. Because as a leader of a company, as a leader of a team, you can't always have people relying upon you to make decisions. You have to empower them, give them the tools, coach them to make their own decisions. Otherwise, you can't grow, because one person can't grow such a massive opportunity. It has to be everyone growing it as a team together, using skills and the knowledge that you kind of learn together. So I think that's a big thing, is putting your ego aside. I don't need to make every decision. I want to learn from everybody, empower them to make good decisions. And again, we learn from them, or they're just another opportunity for us to grow. So it's a big piece of it.
I think you are going to be amazing. I look forward to always being part of your success, either from the sidelines or inside the company, and just helping as I can. And it's been fun to see how far you have come so far. It's amazing. And I know that, the next chapter is going to be even better. So, so thanks again. Any final words of wisdom to offer to anybody, the listener that might be in that role where, they're hitting like a bump right now, and feeling like they've just come up against the same thing over and over again. Like, how do you help them get some grit and, be resourceful and look at the situation a little differently?
There's a couple things that I always try to keep in mind, is that you can't compare yourself to other people, right? Everybody starts at a different place in life, and everybody's finish line might be a different place. You yourself have to dictate that. Like, where do you want to finish? What are your goals? And it might not be the same as the person next to you, but what you can do is take the things you admire about that person and where they are, and spin it a little bit differently. Like, less of a, oh, I wish I was there, more of a, how did that person get there? What did they do to get there? What can I learn from them? Throw them compliments, and try to figure out what it is that they maybe did differently. But you can't compare your paths. I think too many people do that and get discouraged very easily. And maybe some small obstacles feel bigger than they are because somebody else got over it a little more quickly than you did. But you have to remember, they could have been 2 laps ahead of you. They could be 2 laps behind you. You don't know. So you really just have to look at the people next to you and look at them for inspiration, compliment them, take things that you can learn from them. And also, don't put yourself in a box. I know people say that a lot about, being a mom and employee, but I think I mean more so like looking at your own skill set. Like, don't ever underestimate your own skill set. Believe that you could do anything that you wanted to learn or that you put effort into. Like, really believe that about yourself, because I think it changes the way that you view opportunities and obstacles when you really believe that I'm not in a box. Hey, maybe I'm not an engineer, but maybe I could learn how to draw in CAD if that was required for me to get over this obstacle. I could probably do that. Like, I could find a way to do that. I could pull my resources together and I could absolutely figure that out. I think we box ourselves in with our skill set and our characteristics and qualities about us, where if we thought about it more expansively and just said, hey, I bet if I had the right tools and resources, I could develop that skill. If you looked at yourself that way a little bit more often, and you looked in the mirror and encouraged yourself and said, all right, I'm not an engineer, but I could figure that out. I think we'd give ourselves more opportunities to get over obstacles and get around things and learn things from opportunities versus looking at them as, oh man, I'm really stuck here. I don't know if I can do that. You have to really look at it and just believe that you can really do anything, that you worked hard enough and had the right resources at your fingertips that you could go and get after to be able to get through it. I think those are really two really important things to remember.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Such great wisdom. I love the box analogy. There's a podcast episode, and I'll put the link in the show notes. It's the same concept where, we've created boundaries for ourselves and even our team. And when you think about it, why do you have the goal for your team? Because they might blow it out of the park when you think about it. But you gave them, we need this number. And maybe in their head, they're like, oh, you know what? It's like week 3 of the month. I already hit my goal. And then they change. Like, what if there was no end line, and imagine how far they would go. So interesting.
I think that's an important thing that you said, because I think about my career and I only got my first sales position because I was willing to be a customer service representative in order to get that sales position in medical device sales, because I was well underage for the position at the time. But I proved myself in the customer service aspect. So I've been a customer service rep. I was in an outside sales rep. And then I came to enterprise. I was washing cars. I worked at the airport, all kinds of weird hours. I've done things that I think traditionally people might look at and say, oh man, that feels like a step back. But that's just boxing yourself in and thinking that it's something that's outside of what you should be doing or what that exact path you have set for yourself is. And I think sometimes it's a zigzag. It's not a straight line. And I know it's maybe not the most direct route, but the things you learn in the zigzag, I think are what help you when you get to that elevated position. I mean, if I could go from a customer service rep, go from washing cars, stocking a cooler with waters at the Philly airport for enterprise, right?
Yeah,
all these things you've done to now being able to have this opportunity to be an executive level sales leader and help other people get through that zigzag, and also be a company owner and now look at the opportunity to really lead a company. It just proves that anyone can do anything that they put their mind to. You just have to be positive and open and know how to put your hand up and ask for help. Too many people don't do that. I've asked for a lot of help in my career from the people around me, and I wouldn't be who I am or where I am today if those people didn't help me. You included, Deb. It's you have to know when to ask for help, and you have to be willing to go to the people around you doing things really well and just ask them how they're doing it. What are you doing? How can I do that? And be open.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, Amber, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I'm excited again for your success and just think the world of you. And I'm grateful for your friendship and your professional friendship as well. So thanks again.
Feel the same way. Thank you.
What did you learn about yourself? What in this conversation got you thinking, maybe there's something to that? That's your blind spot. Continue this conversation with me. Send an email to hello@debraseymour.com. Now, go be a great leader.